Welcome to the Retain Unified Archiving On-Premise Exchange Module Configuration Guide video. I am Stefan Fassmann, and I will be your guide today. I'll be following the documentation found on our website. There are some prerequisites that are beyond the scope of this video. Set the Retain server so that it points to the same DNS as the Exchange server. You will want to create a DNS SRV record for auto-discover. Get the address of your Active Directory global catalog host. Get your Active Directory search base. Enable rolling in place or litigation hold in Exchange. We will be setting up the Exchange module for on-premise Exchange. We will set up a mailbox user with application impersonation rights. We will enable basic authentication for auto-discover and EWS. We will configure and test the Exchange module. We will sync the address book. First, an overview of how Retain archives from Exchange. When a job begins, the Retain worker will query DNS for the location of the Active Directory global catalog host. Then the worker will use the auto-discover SRV record to query the client access server for the location of the current mailbox. The CAS will use EWS to point the worker to the mailbox server. The mailbox server sends the worker to the correct mailbox database and to the user's mailbox, and will serve the worker the appropriate item. The new item is returned to the Retain worker via EWS. The worker queries the Retain server if the item already exists in the archive. If the item does not exist in the archive, the data is indexed. The header data and pointers to the body and attachments are stored in the database, and the body and any attachments are stored on disk in the archive. Let's create the impersonation user. Browse to the Exchange Admin Center and create a new user. You can name it whatever you want. For this demonstration, I'll name the user Retain and give it a password. Now we have to grant this user specific rights so the data can be dredged. Go to Permissions and create a new admin role. For this demonstration, I'll call it Archive Management. Add the role Application Impersonation. Do not add any administrator rights to this group. Microsoft has made them mutually exclusive, and the impersonation right will fail and no data will be dredged. Add the Retain impersonation user as a member of the group and save. We need to enable basic authentication so the impersonation user can log in properly. Go to Servers, Virtual Directories. Edit Auto-Discover Authentication, and enable basic authentication if it is not enabled. Do the same for EWS. If you have more than one server, you'll need to do this for all servers. Browse to the Retain Server console and select Module Configuration and click on Exchange. You can set a module name if you are expecting to run multiple modules. Enable address book caching allows Retain to determine who is in the Exchange system. Enable Authentication allows your users to log into Retain and access their archives. Enable Jobs allows all jobs connected to this module to run. The Global Catalog user is also known as the impersonation user, which we previously created and gave rights to. Provide the UPN of the impersonation user and their password. The Hosted Services tab is only used with Office 365, but that is another video. The Exchange FARS tab is an important one. Enter the global catalog host address. Click on the green plus sign to add a search base. For example, DC equals company, comma, DC equals com. Now test the connection. This will take a moment as Retain attempts to connect to the impersonation user mailbox. If successful, you can run an additional test with the provided link. Provide a target mailbox, such as your own, and Retain will ask Exchange for a list of folders in the target mailbox. If it is successful, they will be listed. You would use the User Forest tab if you have multiple Active Directory forests. Then you will want to fill in the user forests for end-user authentication when they log into Retain. The Delegates tab lets you enable Retain to use the Delegates feature of Exchange. So if a user has been given rights to another Exchange mailbox, they will be able to access the mailbox in Retain. However, it is all or nothing. Either full rights or no rights to the delegate user's Retain mailbox are granted. To finish, go back to the Retain server and click the Refresh Address Book button. When it is done, status will be configured and the date next to the last address book cache will be current. The next step is to set up and run a job to get data into Retain.